Hello and welcome. My name is Evgeny Rusakov and you're watching TVP World interview from Vilnius. In mid-February, the United States began talks with Russia and Ukraine on ending the war. Since then, Donald Trump has spoken several times separately with Vladimir Putin and Vladimir Zelenskyy, and representatives of the three countries held several rounds of talks in Saudi Arabia. However, the conflict continues. To discuss negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, we are joined today by the political scientist from Institute of International Relations and Political Science, Nerijus Maliukevičius. Nerijus, thank you for joining us today. Good day to you, sir.
Hello.
Nerijus, well, first of all, I guess, how do you as a political scientist like everything that is happening around those negotiations at this specific time since they, well, actually started?
I think, it's obvious that political slogans of peace in 24 hours is, electoral campaign, messaging. When you really have to deal with tough peace negotiations, probably politicians should realize it takes time to achieve ceasefire, to achieve agreements and so on. So the reality is tough. America is trying to somehow withdraw with its efforts and financial efforts and its help, not just in Europe but specifically in Ukraine, and reconcentrate its focus on China specifically. Yes, and the whole idea is somehow to push harder on ending hostilities. And probably the betting is in Trump administration that you can do that only directly by pressing Ukraine, but directly by speaking with Putin and accommodating Putin's demands.
Exactly, yeah.
So this is a big challenge. I would see that if it goes and proceeds like that, it will be a big mistake, not just a big mistake for Europe, for unfortunate mistake for Ukraine, but I think it would be a big mistake for US as well and Trump administration, because it's not just that he needs Russia out of this equation where they can refocus on China and so on. Really, America needs its allies as well in its potential competition with China.
Exactly.
And if peace is achieved, by breaking the spine of Ukraine, by, not involving Europe, then Europe potentially will be out of this new equation vis-à-vis China. And that wouldn't help in any way.
Which actually would make sense, in fact.
Yeah, and that wouldn't help Trump as well. So I really think that it's a very difficult gambit, and it's a real challenge. And I think part of it is really on the way Trump administration chose to be so much aggressive in the way they are perceiving and achieving those goals. Peace in Ukraine, whatever the cost, and just directly with Putin, the tariffs policy, not just, counter China, but everyone in the world. And then everyone in the world then asks the right question, can we trust, United States? Yeah, absolutely,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, coming back to those negotiations, since USA is taking part in those negotiations, everybody is blaming Trump and his administration for being kind of a pro-Kremlin. So, first of all, why is Donald Trump so pro-Kremlin, if I can definitely say so?
I would maybe speculate, because really we don't see very much of inside of all those negotiations and potential kind of linkages between Kremlin, Washington, and discussions like that. So my speculation would be really that in the end, when you skip all your allies from taking part in the peace negotiations, so Europeans are not so much involved, Ukraine, unfortunately, is not so much involved fully by administration. You are left by basically mimicking what your opposing side is saying as the negotiations kind of markers. So Kremlin is speaking about the regions of eastern Ukraine being theirs already, speaking about Ukraine's NATO perspective and so on. And naturally, objectively, American side is just mimicking. So it's I would say you don't even need to be very manipulative on Kremlin side. It's the way Trump's administration structured those peace negotiations that in the end makes it a very strange public kind of debate about what United States is trying to achieve, and we are just basically hearing then Russian positions on or their demands basically.
Okay, I see. Okay, since you talked about allies, there's a question then about Europe. So as you already said, Europe is somehow really ignored in these peace talks, and which makes it a bit, I would say, not right. Let's put it that way. So how could Europe become really a significant part of these negotiations? And could Europe offer credible security guarantees to Ukraine without United States?
I think it's a big challenge, but what I see in this situation as related to skipping Europe in peace negotiations, I see it more as a symptom, more general symptom. So what really United States is trying to do, maybe with a strategy of shock, is just saying that basically we are overstretched, we are done with being fully engaged in helping Ukraine and so on. But more generally, we are overstretched in security means in basically giving you all the security that Europe would need from authoritarian neighbors and so on. And therefore, when we ask when and how Europe could become relevant, it's a really, I would say, big major shift in thinking and acting that you really have to deal with your own security, straight away with additional finances, with new procurements, military approaches, investments, and so on and so on. And then very specifically, if you are looking into what Europe could do in Ukraine, definitely then it should, even support more economically. It should support more militarily, and then hopefully, potentially, even, be involved somehow physically in potential peace settlement or this ceasefire settlement. But it's mainly about the will, about political will. Because in Europe we have economic capacities, we should rebuild our military capacities. The major issue is political will to be engaged in your own security.
This looks like we were talking about this like 2 years ago. And same things on the table, right?
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Again, since we talk about Europe, and I know for sure that you are also an expert in propaganda and disinformation, I wanted to ask you this. So, European fascism, as 80 years ago, is the common enemy of Moscow and Washington. That's exactly the title of an article that was published recently on the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service webpage. And, well, what would you say as an expert regarding this specific article and its title.
I mean,
what's happening now between US and Russia?
It's genre in itself. Naryshkin and other, strong men in Kremlin are not just really the leaders, heads of those tough security institutions. They are writers in themselves. So there is this genre where, from time to time, they publish the opinion ads and so on. In this case, yes, we have this kind of article. It's even updated. We maybe cannot show this, but it's updated with a caricature where Russia and United States are trying to fight off
exactly. I've seen that.
EU's kind of a body with
and there's Ursula von der Leyen. I've seen that thing.
Yeah, so I think what they are playing from propaganda perspective is trying to lure United States in a deeper confrontation with Europe. It probably goes after Vance's speech in Munich, where he basically attacked Europe for,
another Munich speech, right?
Yeah. So no, in this case, it's more of a, spinning a story for Trump administration to go after European Union institutions, rules. This is the biggest challenge that Kremlin has in its geopolitical vision. If there wouldn't be, US-led global order, if there wouldn't be NATO and European Union, you just could come back to 19th century geopolitical power play. That's how Putin would like it to be. And deal directly with maybe Germany, maybe France, maybe United States, and go around, smaller states, and we would end up, in this very tough and difficult situation. So therefore, in this messaging, they are trying to portray,
USA
those
and Russia as allies.
As allies in countering this old order and trying to be tough guys in this new future geopolitical power play.
Unfortunately, we haven't got much time left, so there's another question briefly. We perfectly know how the Korean War ended, and well, I've read an interesting article that was said that the war between Russia and Ukraine is often suggested to end according to the Korean scenario. So what do you, as a political scientist, think of this, possible scenario?
It's a possibility. This is actually what historian Neil Ferguson is suggesting, that he's saying that South Korean scenario for Ukraine would be quite a positive scenario. But for that to happen, you really need not just a peace talks and then ceasefire negotiations. You have to have real security guarantees for, in this case, Ukraine, or as in the past it was for South Korea, to prosper and then to really be able to defend itself against any potential North Korean attack, or in this way it would discourage Russia from attacking again. The worst scenario would be maybe a Vietnam scenario, where basically during Nixon era, Nixon already started speaking about Vietnamization of war in Vietnam, meaning that United States would withdraw, and then the whole conflict would be given to Vietnamese themselves to defend and so on. Unfortunately, without serious, military guarantees, and it just took several years for, North Vietnam to come back, to conquer, and so on. So security guarantees are very important, and this is why Zelenskyy, even in the White House, is eager to raise this question, because without this, it's Ukraine's national security is really in peril.
I guess you've said everything. There's nothing more to add. Nerijus, thank you so much for joining us today, and then, let's see what happens next.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I would like to remind our viewers that our guest for today was a political scientist from Institute of International Relations and Political Science, Nerijus Maliukevičius. You're watching TVP World. Stay with us.